Imagine a hyena. You're probably picturing the spotted hyena of the African savanna with its famous whooping call and powerful jaws. Now imagine something much, much bigger. Picture a hyena the size of a modern lioness, but stockier, more muscular, and with a bite force that could shatter the leg bone of a rhino as easily as you or I might snap a twig. These weren't creatures of myth or legend. They were very real. These were the giant prehistoric hyenas, true titans that prowled the landscapes of Africa, Europe, and Asia for millions of years. They were one of the most successful and fearsome predators the world has ever seen, a true apex predator of their time. Stepping back in time is always a breathtaking experience, and if we were to journey back a million years, we would find ourselves in a world dominated by these incredible beasts. The air wouldn't just be filled with the sounds of mammoths and saber-toothed cats, but also with the deep, guttural calls of these giant hyenas. They were not just scavengers lurking in the shadows, they were formidable hunters in their own right. Their sheer size and strength would have been astonishing to witness. These animals were built for a world of giants, a world where the prey was larger, the competition was fiercer, and survival demanded a level of power that is almost unimaginable today. These were not simple, oversized versions of the hyenas we know. They were a unique and highly specialized group of carnivores that evolved to fill a specific niche in their environment. They were the ultimate bone crushers, the cleanup crew of the prehistoric world, but also the executioners. To understand these magnificent predators, we need to peel back the layers of time. We must explore their origins, their incredible adaptations, and the world they inhabited. It's a journey that reveals how a changing planet can forge some of the most powerful creatures ever to walk the earth, and how even the mightiest can eventually fall. Our adventure into their lost world begins with a simple fact. The hyenas we see today are just a small remnant of a once vast and diverse family. They are the survivors, carrying the legacy of their giant ancestors in their DNA, in their bone-crushing bite, and in their complex social lives. But to truly appreciate the modern hyena, we must first come face to face with its colossal relatives. We must travel back to a time when hyenas were not just laughing scavengers, but the undisputed kings and queens of the carcass, ruling over a kingdom of bone and sinew with an iron jaw. The story of the hyena family, or Hyenidae, doesn't begin with giant bone crushers. It starts with much smaller, more nimble creatures that lived in the forests of Eurasia millions of years ago. These early ancestors were nothing like the powerful beasts we are imagining. They were small, more like a civet or a mongoose than a modern hyena. They were likely agile climbers, scurrying through trees and hunting for insects, small mammals, and birds. Their teeth were not yet specialized for crushing bone. Instead, they were better suited for a generalist diet. It's amazing to think that from these humble cat-like beginnings, a lineage of giants would eventually arise. Around 20 million years ago, during a period called the Miocene, the world began to change. The dense forests started to give way to more open woodlands and savannas. This environmental shift created new opportunities for animals, and the early hyenas were ready to adapt. They began to spend more time on the ground, evolving longer legs that made them better runners. This was a crucial step. As they became more terrestrial, their diet started to shift as well. They were no longer just small-time hunters in the trees, they were becoming part of a new ecosystem on the open plains, a world of opportunity. This transition led to the diversification of the hyena family. One group evolved to become more like dogs, with long snouts and a build suited for chasing down prey over long distances. These were the running hyenas, and for a time they were incredibly successful. They spread across continents, competing directly with early canids. However, another branch of the family tree was heading in a different direction. This group began to develop stronger jaws and more robust teeth. They were becoming specialists, finding a niche that few other animals could exploit, scavenging and bone crushing. It was this second group, the bone crushers, that set the stage for the giants to come. As other large predators like the saber-toothed cats became more common, there were more and more carcasses left behind on the savanna. These leftovers were a rich source of food, but only if you could get to the most nutritious parts, the marrow locked inside the bones. The ancestors of the giant hyenas were perfecting the tools to do just that. Their evolution was a direct response to the world around them, a classic example of nature finding a way to make sure nothing goes to waste. The rise of the giant hyenas cannot be understood without looking at the world they lived in. The late Miocene and Pliocene epochs, stretching from about 10 million to 2.5 million years ago, were times of immense global change. The climate was gradually cooling and becoming drier. This caused the vast, lush forests that had covered much of the globe to shrink, replaced by enormous expanses of open savanna and grasslands. This new landscape was a game-changer for life on Earth. It was a world that favored large, grazing animals and the predators that hunted them. It was the perfect stage for the evolution of giants. This new environment, the savanna, was like a giant buffet. It supported huge herds of herbivores, ancestral elephants, rhinos, giant deer, and wild horses. These were not small animals. Many were much larger than their modern-day relatives. A world filled with such massive prey naturally leads to the evolution of massive predators. There was a sort of evolutionary arms race happening. As the herbivores got bigger to better defend themselves, the carnivores had to get bigger and stronger to be able to hunt them. The giant hyenas were a product of this very race, evolving to tackle prey and process carcasses on an epic scale. The presence of other top predators also played a crucial role. The Pliocene and later the Pleistocene were the golden age of the saber-toothed cats, like Megantereon and Homotherium. These cats were expert hunters capable of bringing down very large animals. However, their long, delicate canine teeth were designed for slicing flesh, not for crunching through bone. This meant that after they had their fill, they often left behind a substantial carcass with plenty of meat and marrow still locked away. This created a perfect, ready-made food source for any animal equipped to exploit it. The giant hyenas were more than equipped, they were masters of the craft. This abundance of food, in the form of both live prey and the leftovers from other predators, removed many of the limitations on size. For the bone-crushing hyenas, getting bigger was a huge advantage. A larger body meant they could dominate other scavengers at a carcass, defend their kills from rivals, and even hunt larger animals themselves. The environmental changes of the Miocene and Pliocene didn't just allow giant hyenas to exist, they actively encouraged their evolution. The world was practically begging for a large, powerful, bone-crushing carnivore, and the hyena family was perfectly positioned to answer the call. When we talk about giant prehistoric hyenas, one name stands above all others: Pachycrocuta brevirostris, often called the giant short-faced hyena. This magnificent beast was the heavyweight champion of the hyena world. It lived during the Pleistocene epoch, from about 2.5 million to 500,000 years ago, and its range was enormous, stretching all the way from Africa through Europe and across to China. To stand before a living Pachycrocuta would have been a truly humbling and terrifying experience. It was a predator built on a scale that is difficult to comprehend today, a true monster of the Ice Age. Just how big was it? A large male Pachycrocuta could weigh up to 110 kilograms, and some estimates suggest even more, putting it on par with a modern lioness. It stood about a meter tall at the shoulder, but it was much more robustly built than any big cat. It had a massive, powerful chest and incredibly strong forelimbs, combined with the classic sloping back that we see in modern hyenas. This build wasn't for sprinting like a cheetah, it was for power and endurance. It was designed to carry heavy pieces of meat over long distances and to wrestle with other powerful carnivores for control of a kill. The most defining feature of Pachycrocuta was its head. It had a short, deep snout, which is what gives it the name brevirostris, short-faced. This short snout wasn't a disadvantage, it was a key part of its bone-crushing toolkit. A shorter jaw maximizes the bite force at the back teeth, turning the hyena's mouth into a powerful vise. The skull itself was incredibly thick and dense, with huge attachment points for massive jaw muscles. Its bite force would have been phenomenal, far exceeding that of any land predator alive today. It could crush the femur of an elephant, a feat that no living carnivore could hope to achieve. Fossils of Pachycrocuta are often found in large accumulations, in places that were clearly its dens. One of the most famous sites is the Zhoukoudian cave system in China, also famous for its fossils of early humans. Here, thousands of bones from a huge variety of animals have been found, many of them bearing the distinctive bite marks of the giant hyena. These dens give us a fascinating window into its life. They show us what it ate, how it processed its food, and confirm its status as the ultimate bone collector of the prehistoric world. Pachycrocuta wasn't just a hyena, it was the hyena, perfected and scaled up to giant proportions. The success of the giant hyenas hinged on a set of remarkable anatomical features, all finely tuned for a life of hunting and, most importantly, extreme scavenging. Their entire body was a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering for power and efficiency. At the heart of this design was the skull. It was not just large, it was architecturally brilliant. The bones were thick and domed, providing strength and protection. The short, deep muzzle we saw in Pachycrocuta was a common theme, acting like a lever to generate maximum force where it was needed most, on the bone-crushing premolar teeth. Those teeth were the real business end of the animal. A giant hyena's dentition was like a specialized toolkit. At the front, it had sharp incisors for gripping and pulling meat from bone. Next came the long, strong canines, which were not as delicate as a saber-tooth's, but were perfect for restraining prey and tearing tough hide. But the true marvels were the premolars. These teeth were massive, rounded and cone-shaped like little anvils. They were designed to withstand immense pressure without fracturing. When the giant hyena brought its powerful jaw muscles to bear, these teeth could pulverize even the largest bones into splinters, allowing access to the nutrient-rich marrow inside. But the adaptations didn't stop at the head. The rest of the skeleton was also built for a rugged lifestyle. The neck was incredibly thick and muscular, necessary for carrying heavy loads, sometimes entire limbs of large animals, back to its den. The forelimbs were much longer and more powerful than the hind limbs, giving it that characteristic sloping back. This posture, which might look strange to us, is actually very efficient for long-distance travel at a steady loping trot. It allowed the giant hyenas to cover vast territories in search of carcasses, conserving energy as they went. It was a build for endurance, not for explosive speed. Even the bones themselves tell a story of strength. Fossilized limb bones of giant hyenas are incredibly thick and dense compared to those of big cats of a similar size. This reinforcement was necessary to support their heavy, muscular bodies and to withstand the stresses of grappling with prey or fighting with rivals. Every piece of the giant hyena's anatomy, from its skull to its toes, points to a single overriding evolutionary strategy: to be the strongest, most durable carnivore on the landscape, capable of consuming every last scrap of a kill and leaving absolutely nothing for anyone else. While their anatomy screams scavenger, it's a mistake to think of giant hyenas as passive opportunists that only waited for others to do the hard work. Like modern spotted hyenas, they were almost certainly highly effective hunters in their own right. Their powerful build would have made them formidable ambush predators, capable of overpowering animals as large as ancient horses or young rhinos. We can imagine them using their intelligence and strength to isolate a weaker individual from a herd before launching a coordinated attack. They wouldn't have been fast sprinters, but they would have had incredible stamina, able to pursue their prey over long distances until it was exhausted. Did they hunt in groups? While we can't know for sure, their modern relatives provide a powerful clue. Spotted hyenas have incredibly complex social lives and often hunt in large, coordinated clans. This allows them to take down prey much larger than themselves, such as zebra and wildebeest. It is highly likely that giant hyenas like Pachycrocuta also lived and hunted in social groups. A clan of these lion-sized predators would have been an unstoppable force, capable of challenging almost any other animal on the savanna. Working together, they could have defended carcasses from saber-toothed cats and even brought down truly massive prey. The evidence from their dens also hints at a social structure. The vast collections of bones found at sites like Jokudian suggest that these were communal places. They were likely used by a whole clan, where individuals would bring back food to share with young, elderly, or nursing members. This kind of central place foraging is a hallmark of social carnivores. Inside these dens we find the bones of countless animals, from deer and horses to rhinos and even elephants. The hyenas were dragging back huge portions of their kills, a task that would be much easier if you had help from your clanmates. Life in a clan would have been complex, likely with a strict social hierarchy, just as we see in modern hyenas. There would have been dominant individuals, probably large females, who got first access to food and breeding opportunities. There would have been cooperation, but also intense competition within the group. These social dynamics would have been a key part of their success, allowing them to dominate their environment for millions of years. The image of a lone giant hyena is fearsome enough, but the reality of a disciplined, organized clan on the hunt is truly the stuff of prehistoric nightmares. The world of the giant hyenas was a tough place to make a living. They were apex predators, yes, but they were not alone at the top. They shared their landscape with a host of other formidable carnivores, leading to constant competition for food and territory. Their main rivals were the big cats, especially the saber-toothed cats like Homotherium and Megantherium. These cats were expert hunters, but the hyenas had the advantage in numbers and bone-crushing power. It's likely that confrontations at kill sites were a daily occurrence. A single hyena might be driven off by a saber-tooth, but a clan of giant hyenas could likely intimidate the cat and steal its hard-earned meal. This interaction is known as kleptoparasitism, stealing food from other predators, and the giant hyenas were probably the masters of it. Their robust build and powerful jaws made them bullies on the savanna. Fossil evidence sometimes shows the bite marks of a saber-toothed cat and a giant hyena on the same bone, a clear sign of a stolen carcass. But the competition wasn't always one-sided. In some cases, saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas might have coexisted by specializing on slightly different prey or hunting in different areas. It was a dynamic and dangerous balance of power, a constant struggle for supremacy. And then, a new player entered the scene: early humans. Our own ancestors, like Homo erectus, were also evolving on the African and Eurasian savannas at the same time as the giant hyenas. For hundreds of thousands of years, we were not the dominant species. We were part of the food chain. The dens of Pachycrocuta sometimes contained the bones of early hominins, a chilling reminder that we were once prey. For early humans, a giant hyena was one of the most dangerous animals they could encounter. A clan of these predators would have been a terrifying threat, capable of raiding campsites and carrying off the unwary. However, humans were clever. We had tools and eventually fire. This changed the relationship. Instead of just being prey, we also became competitors. Humans and hyenas were both intelligent social omnivores who targeted the same resources. We were both expert scavengers, looking for leftover carcasses. It is very likely that early humans learned to watch vultures circle in the sky, not just to find a dead animal, but to find a giant hyena's kill that they might be able to scare it away from, perhaps by using fire or by making a lot of noise. This direct competition with our own ancestors would become a crucial factor in the giant hyena's story. For millions of years, the giant hyenas were an incredible success story. They were tough, adaptable, and ruled ecosystems across 3 continents. But around 500,000 years ago, their reign came to an end. The king, Pachycrocuta brevirostris, disappeared from the fossil record, along with other large hyena species. So what happened? Why did these seemingly invincible predators vanish? There isn't one single simple answer. Instead, their extinction was likely caused by a combination of factors: a perfect storm of environmental change, and increasing competition that they just couldn't overcome. The first major factor was climate change. The Pleistocene epoch, or the Ice Age, was characterized by dramatic swings in climate. There were long, cold glacial periods where ice sheets expanded, followed by warmer interglacial periods. These rapid changes drastically altered landscapes. The vast open savannas that had supported the giant herbivores and thus the giant hyenas began to shrink or change. Some of their primary prey species went extinct, while others adapted in ways that made them harder to hunt. The reliable buffet that had fueled the hyena's giant size was starting to close down. At the same time, the competition was getting fiercer and smarter. A new type of hyena was spreading out of Africa, the ancestor of the modern spotted hyena, Pachycrocuta. These new hyenas were slightly smaller and more gracile than the giants like Pachycrocuta, but they were also more versatile and, crucially, had a more complex social intelligence. They were better adapted to hunting in coordinated groups, which made them more efficient predators. They were able to outcompete the larger, more specialized giant hyenas, gradually replacing them across their range. The giants were being squeezed out by their own, more modern cousins. The final piece of the puzzle was the growing influence of humans. By the Middle Pleistocene, humans like Homo heidelbergensis and later the Neanderthals were becoming incredibly sophisticated hunters. They had better tools, used fire effectively, and hunted in large, coordinated groups. They were now direct and formidable competitors for the same resources as the giant hyenas. Humans were not only killing the same prey, but were also likely driving hyenas away from carcasses. This three-way pressure, from a changing climate, from more efficient hyena cousins, and from increasingly clever humans, was too much. The age of the giant hyenas was over. Though the giant hyenas themselves are long gone, their legacy lives on. They are not just a forgotten chapter in the book of life, they have left an indelible mark on the world, most notably in their surviving relatives. The modern spotted hyena, the most successful large carnivore in Africa today, is a direct descendant of the lineage that competed with and eventually replaced the giants. When we look at a spotted hyena, we are seeing a continuation of the same evolutionary story. It carries the genetic blueprint of a super-scavenger, a legacy honed over millions of years of Pliocene and Pleistocene competition. The incredible bone-crushing bite of the spotted hyena is a direct inheritance from its giant ancestors. While not as powerful as Pachycrocutas, it is still the strongest bite relative to its size of any living mammal, allowing it to process carcasses with an efficiency that no other predator can match. Their complex social lives, their intelligence, and their ability to be both expert hunters and dominant scavengers are all traits that were forged in the crucible of the Ice Age, in direct competition with their larger cousins. The modern hyena is, in many ways, a more refined, versatile, and ultimately more successful version of the giant hyena model. Studying these ancient predators teaches us profound lessons about life, evolution, and extinction. The story of the giant hyenas is a powerful reminder that no species, no matter how big or powerful, is immune to change. Specialization can be a great strength, but it can also be a fatal weakness when the world changes around you. Pachycrocuta was perfectly adapted to a world of giant carcasses, but when that world disappeared, it could not adapt quickly enough. Its extinction highlights the delicate balance of ecosystems and shows how the rise of one group, in this case modern hyenas and humans, can lead to the fall of another. Ultimately, the giant hyenas challenge our perceptions. They force us to see hyenas not as lowly laughing scavengers but as a diverse and powerful family of carnivores that once stood at the very top of the food chain. They were titans of their time, shaping the ecosystems they lived in and even influencing our own evolutionary story. Their fossilized bones are more than just relics of a lost world. They are a testament to the incredible power of evolution and a humbling reminder of the giants that once walked the earth. They may be gone, but the echo of their power can still be heard in the whooping call of their modern descendants across the African night.